You know the drill, right? You're trying to open a new bank account and boom, you're hit with a request for a whole stack of documents. It's called KYC, or Know Your Customer, and let's be honest, it can feel like a huge hassle. But what if I told you that little request is actually a key move in a massive, hidden battle against some pretty serious crime? Well, today, we're going to unpack exactly what KYC is, why it's so incredibly important, and how it's changing, all based on the official rulebook from the Reserve Bank of India.
Seriously, it feels like they ask all the time, doesn't it? You've already given them your details, so why do they need to see your ID again? It's a super common frustration. But that seemingly small request, it's actually putting you on the front line of a global fight against some very bad people.
And that's right. Every single time your bank verifies your identity, they aren't just ticking a box on a form. They're doing their part in a coordinated, worldwide effort to stop our financial system from being hijacked for nasty stuff like money laundering and funding terrorism.
So let's start with the first big one, money laundering. You can think of it like a financial magic trick. Criminals take dirty money, from illegal activities, and they push it through the legal banking system. The goal is to make it come out the other side looking totally legitimate or clean. KYC is designed to stop that trick before it even begins.
And then you have the other, even more chilling side of the coin, terrorist financing. This is exactly what it sounds like, using the financial system to funnel money to terrorist groups. KYC's job here is to basically cut off the financial oxygen these groups need to operate. So yeah, this is way bigger than just bureaucracy. It's a matter of national and global security.
So where did all these rules even come from? Let's jump into our first section. You're about to see that these policies aren't just something your local bank branch dreamed up. Nope, they're part of a much bigger international framework.
You can see how it all unfolded right here. It really kicked off on a global scale back in 1989 with the FATF, which sets the standards for everyone. Then, India brought those standards home with the Prevention of Money Laundering Act in 2002. And finally, in 2016, the RBI rolled out the super detailed KYC rules that our banks follow today. And that brings us to the main player here in India. The Reserve Bank of India, the RBI, is the authority that literally writes the rulebook. They issue what are called Master Directions, which are basically detailed instructions telling every bank, finance company, and payment system exactly how to do KYC right.
All right, let's dive into Section 2 and get down to the nitty-gritty. What does the RBI actually mean when they say, know your customer?
This quote is straight from the RBI's official documents, and it's basically the mission statement for everything KYC. And notice there are two really important goals here. First, stop the banks from being used as a pipeline for crime. And second, protect the strength and stability of the whole financial system for all of us.
Okay, so the main tool to get this done is something called Customer Due Diligence, or CDD. The easiest way to think about it is this. KYC is the rulebook, and CDD is the actual game plan. It's the process of the bank collecting your documents, double-checking your identity, and just getting a sense of who you are financially to make sure everything's on the level.
So how do banks actually build this process? Well, the RBI doesn't just leave it up to them. In our third section, we're going to look at the mandatory framework that every single financial institution in the country has to build on.
The RBI says every KYC policy has to be built on these 4 pillars. First, the bank has to have a clear policy on who it'll even accept as a customer. Second, they have to figure out your risk profile. Are you low, medium, or high risk? That tells them how closely to watch the account. Third is the part we all know, the actual identification procedures. And finally, and this is so important, they have to continuously monitor transactions for anything that looks weird or suspicious. It's a whole life cycle of security.
Okay, let's get super practical. Section 4 is all about what this actually means for you. When a bank asks for your KYC documents, what exactly do they need?
So the RBI is super specific about what counts as an officially valid document, or an OVD for short. This is the official list, just these 6 items. Any one of these can be used to prove both who you are and where you live, which helps make the process just a little more straightforward.
But hang on, what happens if you've moved and your Aadhaar or passport still has your old address? That's a classic problem, right? Well, the rules have an answer for that. You can provide one of those main OVDs to prove your identity, and then use a separate document, like a recent electricity bill, just to prove your current address. It's a pretty simple fix for a very common situation.
Now, KYC isn't just for individuals like you and me.
When it's a business account, the bank has to identify the beneficial owner. That basically means they have to look past the company's name and find the actual, real people who own or control it. For a company, that's anyone who holds more than 10% of the shares or profits.
All right, for our final section, let's look at how technology is completely changing the game here. We're talking about moving away from photocopies and long queues at the bank and stepping into the era of digital KYC.
And the biggest innovation here is something called VSIP, which stands for Video-Based Customer Identification Process. Honestly, this is a total game changer. The RBI has defined it as a live, secure video call with a bank official that lets you complete the entire KYC process from literally anywhere without ever having to go to a branch.
And this just lays it out perfectly. The old way meant digging up your documents, making copies, taking time out of your busy day to physically go to a branch. The new way, VCIP, is designed to happen on your phone or your laptop, wherever you happen to be. That's a huge leap forward in convenience.
Of course, you might be thinking, is this whole video thing secure? And that's a fair question. The RBI has mandated some really strict security standards for VCICP. We're talking encrypted calls, geotagging to confirm you're in India, and even AI to make sure it's a real live person on the call. Plus, all your data has to be stored securely right here in the country.
So, after going through all of that, from global rules and the 4 pillars to OVDs and video calls, we circle back to this one crucial point. KYC isn't just a regulatory hurdle or an annoying form to fill out. It's a carefully designed shield that protects our entire financial ecosystem from being exploited by criminals.
Which brings us to one final thought. We started this whole conversation with the simple inconvenience of being asked for our ID. But now that we see it's a part of a huge global effort to fight very serious crime, the question kind of changes, doesn't it? Is that small bit of hassle a fair price to pay for a much safer financial world? It's definitely something to think about. I hope this helped you see the bigger picture behind KYC. Thanks for joining me.